They call me the Hebrew stranger, walking in the face of danger. In my ranger, I don't worship no nativity manger.
Shalom, shalom, everyone. I want to start out by giving praise, glory, honor, and esteem to the Most High, Yahuwah Elohim, the Holy One of Israel. Shout out to all of Israel that's scattered around the world, to the stranger of a contrite spirit that knows who the true Israel is and has taken hold of the commandments of the Most High. Shalom. So today, and also shalom to the visitors visiting this page, Strangers Among Israel. We're going to be discussing a little bit of the identity of Israel, okay? And we're going to see if what the geneticists and DNA has to show about modern Jews and ancient Israelites. So as you can see, I already have it pulled up. This literature, Jewish literature, 1980 Jewish Almanac. So let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit for you guys. Hopefully it doesn't get distorted. And I'll read it for you guys. A brief history of the term for Jew. Strictly speaking, it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a Jew. That's interesting. Or to call a contemporary Jew an Israelite or a Hebrew. The first Hebrews may not have been Jews at all. Well, first off, I don't remember of any type of evolution of changing names and changing people. So it's obvious that they're telling you that they are not the people. Plain and simple. Okay, so that's where we're going to start. So we got that. Just bear with me as I kind of go through here, folks. All right, so the next one. This is actually, I actually own this encyclopedia. This is where I'm going to be showing you guys some stuff. So in case you guys want to buy it, you can look that name up. So actually, let me take you here. Semitic Afro-Asiatic languages. So Hebrew is an Afro-Asiatic language, and this is the Semitic area in the green. Okay, so you guys can see. Let me just see if I can zoom in a little bit so you can see. Okay, so let me see what the encyclopedia's got to say. Hebrew language. Hebrew is the official language of Israel and the common religious and cultural language of Jewish people throughout the world. The Old Testament of the Bible, the Mishnah, parts of the vast Talmud, Midrash were written in Hebrew. All right, let me just, along with various more and recent religious, philosophical, literary, and scientific works, provide continuous 3,000-year record of language. All right, Hebrew belongs to the Canaanite branch, Northwest Semitic, or Afro-Asiatic Afro-Asiatic family of languages. Over the ages, Aramaic dialects have probably had the greatest impact on Hebrew. All right, so you guys already seen Afro-Asiatic languages, okay? And they're all pretty much in Asia, Africa. All right, so let's see what these guys are speaking. Yiddish. The Yiddish language was born between the 10th and 12th century among the Jews who settled along the Rhine and Germany, incorporating many Hebrew and Aramaic words. All right, okay. It was based on German dialects with some borrowings from Slavic languages. The early Yiddish literature was largely oral and consisted of romances, adaptations of biblical stories, and folklore. All right. So you guys can see what Yiddish is, and it has nothing to do, barely, outside of them adding some words, some Hebrew and Aramaic. All right, so The next thing I want to take you guys is the extraction, where they were taking the DNA samples of their bones and their teeth. We extracted the DNA from bones of 73 individuals from 5 archaeological sites in the southern Levant. All right, northern Israel, right here, Tel Megiddo, central Jordan, central Israel, again northern Israel, Tel Hazor, and again from this place here, Abel Beth Makkah. All right, so as you guys can see, that's where they took it from, and that is in Israel. So let's see here. Let's see what Dr. Elhaik says about Jewish ancestry. The DNA extracted from those bones can tell us who these people were. Excuse me. What they looked like, what they ate, and what diseases they carried. All right, now you hear that. We can trace their migration routes to gain a deeper understanding of where we all came from. That's why the E1B1 has high frequencies in Africa. We can trace their migration routes to gain a deeper understanding of where we all came from. Yes, they can also tell us how similar those ancient Israelites were to modern day people. And if modern day Jews are not the lineal descendants of ancient Israelites, we can find out who is. All right. To answer some of these questions, Ancient DNA Origins developed a series of genetic tests. Disclosure contributed to the development. So Dr. Elhaik was the big contributor to this, which allowed comparing the DNA of modern day people to the ancient DNA extracted from skeletons of various people, including ancient Israelites. The ancient Israelites were obtained from 3 regions: Moza, Taktit, at the territory of the tribe of Benjamin, Naphtali, and Rakaphet Cave, Manasseh, near the valley of the Rakaphet River. All right. Let me just put it up a little bit if I can zoom in so you guys can see and read it for yourself. Pause it if you guys need to. So, all right. So, now that we got that, we are going to talk about what Dr. Iran has to say over here. Let's see. Due to many population replacements that the area experienced, we can see a diverse range of mitochondrial haplogroups that vary over time. Among the most common lineages are J2, K1, and T. An analysis of Judeans from the 1st century AD confirmed the prevalence of the T haplogroup, found today in less than 10% of Ashkenazi Jews. Unsurprisingly, not a single skeleton matches the alleged 4 Ashkenazi Jewish mothers. So the ancient Israelite skeletons that they dug up, none of that DNA matches them, whose origin is in prehistoric Europe. So obviously these Ashkenazi Jews, their origins is in Europe. As expected, an exact match with one of those mothers was found in Spain, Neolithic Spain. All right, let's continue. This is the only match from prehistoric times to date, but it is reasonable to expect many more to come. As ancient DNA from Eastern Europe and the Caucasus will be sequenced. Interestingly, the Y chromosome haplogroup of ancient Israelites are typically E1, B1, and T1. So they're giving you the haplogroups. This is Dr. Iran Elhaik, okay? Commonly found today in Africa with lower frequencies in the Middle East and Europe. Well, that makes sense to me. We can expect that future tests covering other regions of the world would be able to explain the remaining portion of the elusive Jewish ancestry. Only time will say if genetic Jewishness will evolve into primeval Jewishness, where people define their Jewishness based on their similarity to ancient Israelites and Jews rather than modern ones. All right. So there you have it, folks. Let's keep it moving. There you go, Dr. Elron Elhaik, the geneticist. All right, so this one is from, it's a science page here. I forgot the name of it. My apologies. All right. Did modern Jews originate in Italy? So now everybody's trying to see what's up. The new genetic study traces Ashkenazi roots to prehistoric Europe, not the Middle East. All right. So, modern Jews may traditionally trace their ancestry to the Holy Land, but a new genetic study finds otherwise. All right, so they just wishful thinking. A detailed look at thousands of genomes find that Ashkenazim, who make up roughly 80% of the world's Jews, including 90% of those in America and half of those in Israel, ultimately came not from the Middle East, but from Western Europe, perhaps Italy. All right. Most mainstream historians regard Ashkenazim as the descendants of Jews who moved into Central Europe from the Middle East, sometimes before the 12th century CE. Ashkenazim, oh my God, like most members of this religious, cultural, and ethnic group, traditionally trace their ancestry to ancient Israelites. The Israelites, in turn, arose between 3,000 and 4,000 years ago in the Middle East, according to both biblical sources and archaeological evidence. They dispersed after the Romans destroyed their second temple in Jerusalem. All right, let me just read a little bit more. Recent genetic work has supported this traditional view. Two studies, one led by geneticist Harry O. Osser of New York University School of Medicine, and the other by geneticist Doron Bihar of Rambam Healthcare campus in Haifa, Israel. So even folks in Israel are doctors in Israel are admitting to this. Trace the three main diaspora groups: Ashkenazim, Sephardism from Spain and Portugal, and Oriental Jews from the Middle East, to people who all lived in the Middle East about 2,000 years ago. The Oster study used DNA from the nucleus of the cell in its analysis, and the Bihar study used both nuclear and mitochondrial. The latter comes from tiny bodies in the living cells that provide it with energy. Many other researchers consider these results to be definitive at the time. Yet there were lingering questions. All right, so as you guys can read, let me see here. First of all, they're not even, the haplogroups don't even match up, as you guys can see here. So yeah. This is a long article. So let's keep it moving. But just so you guys can see that, the genetic study traces Ashkenazi roots to prehistoric Europe. And again, we are just touching the surface. I'm not even getting into like really in-depth things. This is just kind of touching the waters, if you will. All right, this one. NBC News. Most Ashkenazi Jews are genetically European. Surprising study finds. As you can see, everybody's saying different geneticists, different schools of medicine, all coming to this conclusion that they are not Semitic people. All right. The origin of Ashkenazi Jews, who come most recently from Europe, has largely been shrouded in mystery, but a new study suggests that at least their maternal lineage may derive largely from Europe. Though the finding may seem intuitive, it contradicts the notion that European Jews mostly descend from people who left Israel and the Middle East around 2,000 years ago. Instead, a substantial proportion of the population originates from local Europeans who converted to Judaism, said study co-author Martin Richards and Archaegeneticists, at the University of Huddersfield in England. So you have European geneticists, Jewish geneticists. They're all on the same page. The people need to wake up. You've been blessing the wrong people. And look, at the end of the day, nothing against the Jewish community, but it's time y'all take a back seat and let the true Israel take their throne. It is what it is. And if you don't want to give it up, trust me, the Father will remove you. So it's just kind of one of those things, man. It's let me see. Real quick, I don't think I showed you guys. Let me go back to these are the bones, okay, that they were extracting. And let me see what else they got here. Okay. Alright, so yeah, for right now, that's some of the bones that they extracted from those places in Israel. And they do not match modern Jewish people. And the modern Jewish people trace a lineage back to Europe. Alright. And if they do have Middle Eastern, it does not mean that they are from Israel. It could mean that they're from different parts of the Middle East. All right, so this study right here is actually from Harvard University. I'll be honest, it took me hours to find this, And so this is basically, let me see here. Chromosomal variations of ancient Near East. All right, so basically ancient Middle East. All right. So what we're going to look at is the Levant, basically Israel, and the haplogroups. All right. So they did mention T right here. Okay. And sorry about that. I don't know how that happened. And then right here, Israel. There's your haplogroup right there. So, all right. So let's see. And CT was also found in Israel too. However, CT is even older than the E. But the E does, if you work backwards, the E haplogroup comes off of DE, and DE comes from CT. And I can actually just go here and show you guys. Let me see. Right here. See? Here's E haplogroup. As you work your way back, DE and the CT. All right. Let me see. Men who carry the CT clade Y chromosome with SNP mutations M168 along. I won't bore you with this, but let me see if I can. Most recent common male line ancestors of all CT men probably predated the recent African origin of modern humans, a migration in which some of his descendants participated. He is therefore thought to have lived in Africa before the proposed migration. All right. So, if this haplogroup CT originated in Africa, common sense will tell you what color the descendants will most likely be. Let's use common sense here, fam. And it's not to put anyone down. We got to get to the root of all this and be righteous about everything as best as we can, because mistakes do happen. All right? So, oh, and here it tells you too that the CT and CF and DE belong to CT. All right. I'm going to read this one. This one's really good. It's pretty good. This is a journal. Let me see, so I don't want to lose my spot here. It's about Jewish information. All right. Their theories. Now this is a little bit more in depth because now we're talking about the Khazarian Empire and two analysis that they're making. So I'm just going to go ahead and read. Excuse me. Our results shed light on sex-specific process that, although not evident from the autosomal data, are analogous to those obtained from the biparental analysis. Both mtDNA and Y chromosome analysis yield high similarities between European Jews and Caucasus populations rooted in the Caucasus. In support of the Khazarian hypothesis, interestingly, the maternal analysis depicts a specific Caucasus founding lineage with a weak Southern European ancestry, whereas the paternal ancestry reveals a dual Caucasus Southern European origin. As expected, the maternal ancestry exhibits a higher relatedness scale with narrow dispersal compared with paternal ancestry. Dissecting a uniparental haplogroups allow us to delve further into European Jews' migration routes, as the results do not specify whether Southern Europe Caucasus migration was ancient or recent, nor indicate the migration direction. All right. So Dr. Elhaik mentioned earlier that they know everything, what they ate and where they went. All right, so this is just a smokescreen because they know that they're just Europeans, but in all, I'm sure they have a little bit more of that, and we're going to read about it a little bit here. As the results do not specify whether Southern European Caucasus migration was ancient or recent, nor indicate the migration directions, that is, from Southern Europe to the Caucasus or the opposite. There are 4 possible scenarios of these. The only historically supportable scenarios are ancient migrations from Southern Europe towards Khazaria, 6th to 13th century. All right, and more recent migrations from Caucasus to Central and Southern Europe, 13th to 15th century. A westward migration from the diminished Khazaria towards Central and Southern Europe would have exhibited a gradient from the Caucasus towards Europe for both matrilineal and patrilineal lineage lines. So that means from the Khazarian Empire, they moved west and they mixed with the Europeans. That's what they're saying here. Such a gradient was not observed. By contrast, Judaized Greco-Roman male-driven migration directly to Khazaria is consistent with historical demographic migration and could have created the observed pattern. Moreover, we found little genetic similarities between European Jews and population eastward to the Caspian Sea and southward to Black Sea, delineating the geographical boundaries of Khazaria. All right, this is all really good, so I'll go ahead and read it, guys. Hang in there. Appreciate it. Eastern and Central European Jews comprise the largest group of contemporary Jews, accounting for approximately 90% of over 13 million worldwide Jews. That's a lot. Eastern European Jews made up over 90% of European Jews before World War II, despite their controversial ancestry. So they've been having issues with their ancestry. European Jews are an attractive group for genetic and medical studies due to their presumed genetic history. Correcting for population structure and using suitable controls are critical in medical studies. Thus, it is vital to determine whether European Jews are Semitic, Caucasus, or other ancestry. Though Judaism was born encased in theological historical myth, no Jewish historiography was produced from the time of Josephus Flavius, 1st century, to the 19th century. Early historians bridged the historical gap simply by linking modern Jews directly to ancient Judeans. Man. All right. Hope you guys are listening. A paradigm that was later embedded in medical science and crystallized as narrative. So they just went along with the lie. How about that? So let's keep reading. Many have challenged this narrative, Koestler, mainly by showing that a sole Judean ancestry cannot account for a vast population of Eastern European Jews in the beginning of the 20th century without major contribution of Judeans, Khazars, and demonstrating that it is in conflict with anthropological, historical, and genetic evidence. And I'm going to only read a little bit more. With unparental and whole genome analysis providing ambiguous answers, the question of European Jewish ancestry remained debated mainly between the supporters of Rhineland and Khazarian hypothesis. Alright, so they've been debating this forever. And if they were the true people of the Most High, there should be no debate, and it should have been understood. But anyways, we keep going. Although both theories oversimplify complex historical process, they are attractive due to their distinct predictions and testable hypotheses. We showed that the hypotheses are also genetically distinct and that the minuscule Semitic ancestry, minuscule, that's super tiny, Semitic ancestry and Caucasus populations cannot account for the similarity between European Jews and Caucasus population. The recent availability of genome data from Caucasus population allowed testing the Khazarian hypothesis for the first time and prompted us to contrast it with the Rhineland hypothesis. To evaluate the two hypotheses, we carried out a series of comparative analysis between European Jews and surrogate Khazarian and Judean populations, posing the same question each time. It's funny because I tell my ox, you can tell that these geneticists and schools that are doing all this research, they want to know who the real people are. And I'll be honest, to me, this is just my personal opinion. I think they know, but they haven't just said it yet. And they're probably just waiting to really reveal that to the world. But I know that they know, All right. And again, that's just my personal opinion. Let's keep reading. To evaluate the two hypotheses, we carried out a series of comparative analysis between European Jews and surrogate Khazarians and Judean populations, posing the same question each time. Are Eastern and Central Europeans genetically closer to Khazarian or Judean populations? All right, so are they Khazarian or ancient Israelites? We'll find out. That's the question. Under the Rhineland hypothesis, European Jews are also expected to exhibit high endogamy, particularly across the Eurasian communities, and be more similar to Middle Eastern populations compared with their neighboring non-Jewish populations. Whereas the Khazarian hypothesis predicts the opposite scenario. We emphasize that these hypotheses are not exclusive and that some European Jews may have other ancestries, not necessarily ancient Israelite DNA. But anyways, let me see here. I'm just gonna go ahead and just all right, let me just keep reading. Our PC biographical estimation admixture IBD and ASD and unparental analysis were consistent in depicting a Caucasus ancestry for European Jews. Our first analysis revealed tight genetic relationship of European Jews and Caucasus population and pinpointed the biological origin of European Jews to the South Khazarian or South Khazaria. All right. So first of all, European Jews and Caucasus population, basically they had the same DNA. They couldn't tell the difference. And they pinpointing them to South Khazaria. All right, let's keep reading. Our later analysis yielded a complex ancestry with slightly dominant Near Eastern Caucasus ancestry, Southern European and Middle Eastern ancestries, and a minor Eastern European contribution. The latter two differentiated Central and Eastern European Jews, although the Middle Eastern ancestry faded in the ASD and unparental analysis. The Southern European ancestry was upheld, probably attesting to its later time period. We show that the Khazarian hypothesis offers a comprehensive explanation for the results, including the reports of Southern European and Middle Eastern ancestry. By contrast, the Rhineland hypothesis could not explain the large Caucasus components in European Jews, which is rare in non-Caucasus population. So basically they're going with the Khazarian hypothesis because it makes more sense to the geneticists due to the DNA that they were finding. Basically the Khazarian Empire is just like the Turks, ancient Turks. And I've heard Jewish folks admit to that. Let me just keep reading. I lost my train of thought here. By contrast, the Rhineland hypothesis could not explain the large Caucasus component in European Jews, which is rare in non-Caucasus population, and large IBD regions shared between European Jews and Caucasus population, attesting to their common recent origins. Our findings thus reject the Rhineland hypothesis and uphold the thesis that Eastern European Jews are Judeo-Khazars in origin. Consequently, we can conclude that the conceptualization of Eastern Jews as a population isolate, which is derived from the Rhineland hypothesis, is incorrect and most likely reflects sampling bias and lack of Caucasus non-Jewish population and comparative analysis. Man, that was a lot. Hang in there, fam. This is a lot. I mean, this is the reading I had to do. It kind of drove me insane because it is a lot. Anytime knowledge is power, and you know, it takes time. So basically, they're holding to the Khazarian hypothesis. Let me see. Let me see if I can just Google, just so you guys can see. Alright, let me see if I can get a closer look. Wow. Let me see. That's Khazaria, and Europe is right over here. Let me see if I can find a better picture. Yeah, you see how close they are to Russia, and Spain is right over here. So, fam, you know, at the end of the day, without of course, this is a beginner or introductory, really, of this information of modern Jewish people. Look, the Khazars were a nomadic Turkic people that established a major commercial empire in the late, you know. And these Khazars basically went into Europe and mixed with them. So that's probably why some of that Khazar DNA is hard to find, and they're having difficulties. But they are pinpointing it to that because it is the most best way to explain it. So the next question is, who is the Most High's people? So the geneticists already gave us the haplogroups, and those haplogroups was what we were told that are in high frequencies in Europe. I mean, not Europe, but Africa, and low frequencies in Europe and the Middle East. So that is going to be on the next video, but I will kind of show you a little sneak peek of where they could have went. So that right there, fam, is where the true Israelites were dispersed. And I mean, there's so much. I mean, you can't cover it all in one video. And I'm barely skimming the surface. So these haplogroups that we just mentioned are a high frequency in Africa, and this is where they were taken. So with that said, fam, thank you for hanging in there if you're still in and here watching, and hope this was edifying to those that's never heard this information before. And kind of to my surprise, it's still unheard of out there. With so much knowledge and technology out there, I'm surprised, people don't know more. But again, we're all learning. We're learning together, so I appreciate it, y'all. Y'all have a blessed day. Shalom, shalom.